Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. A lady who's starring in Cinderella at Derby Live in the wonderful pantomime Cinderella. Eilish O'Carroll is one of the big stars who will be appearing through January the 3rd. Eilish, how are you?
I'm absolutely amazingly wonderful. I'm enjoying every minute of doing Cinderella. You know, I'm not Cinderella, obviously. I just want your listeners to know that.
Well, I think you should be cast as that. I don't know why they...
Really, but I don't know why they didn't cast me as Cinderella, but they said, how about Fairy Godmammy? It was either that or one of the ugly sisters. So I thought, no, I'll flump the glamorous back.
Well, I was asked to play Dick in Whittington, so I wouldn't go there if I were you.
Okay. You obviously turned it down.
I did indeed. I was busy. Thank you so much for talking to me today. It's a great honour, and here's why. I mean, Mrs. Brown's Boys, let's start with that. I mean, it's made you a household name. And of course, the trajectory of that success is phenomenal. It's very rare something happens that big, that quickly, and that successfully that's that good, is it?
A lot of people don't realise that Mrs. Brown's Boys has been going for near on 20 years now.
Yeah.
And we first went out with Mrs. Brown's Boys in a theatre in Cork City, the Everyman Theatre in Cork City in 1999. So that was the very first play that went out. But once it went on telly, which was obviously probably, what was that now, 7 years ago?
That's right.
It just became viral. And none of us expected that to happen.
I've spoke to many stars over the years, and isn't it interesting how you can be banging away at stuff in theatres to hundreds, if not thousands a night, but one shot on BBC1 just changes everything. That's just the reality of showbiz.
Literally, and that is the reality of TV.
Yeah.
It's the magic of TV and the reality of TV. And we never expected, even when we did the pilot for the BBC, we never expected to get the green light, because Brendan had said, this isn't, they're not going to run with this, guys. BBC and the licence and the English are very conservative, and they really won't get our humour and all this kind of thing. So we were so shocked when they ran with it, and even more shocked when it became the success story it did. And it's fantastic. I mean, I still pinch myself 8 years later. And it's hard, when you say things like, you're a household name, I go, no, I'm not. I'm just who I am.
But the thing about Winnie, you see, she sets up Brendan, or should I say Agnes, beautifully with these zinger lines, and gives Brendan the opportunity to sort of steal the show with these zingers. And it's a beautiful chemistry you've got in that show, isn't it?
Yes, and I think being siblings obviously helps, because I know his next move before he knows his next move.
Yes.
And I also know, with all the years of living with him, that you have to be a hair's breadth behind Brendan. You're never with him. You have to be a hair's breadth behind him. And that's what comedy is about, particularly double acts. It is about, your timing and making sure that you are the line feeder. You are the one who's setting it up. Right, and I love it, and I love working with him. He's a comic genius.
He is.
And I love comedy myself, and I think we both have a natural gift when it comes to comedy. And it works so beautifully.
Do you know what's great as well is that you're doing and I mean this as a compliment, by the way, you're doing old-fashioned shtick and gags, which I love. For a while on telly, they sort of poo-pooed that, and they were doing this sort of modern, let's talk about going to the shops all day and nothing really happens. I love the fact that you set up a gag and there's a punchline at the end. And I think that's the reason that from 8 to 80, people love it.
Oh, that's exactly the reason, because it's old-fashioned humour, and the physical comedy appeals to the kids. They slapdash comedy, and that's what it is, appeals to the adults. It's got I think I remember somebody from the BBC saying to me, it was the only sitcom that had that age range of a following, from 8 to 90. And it's you either love it or you hate it. And also the success, I think, is down to the fact that timing is always very important. It's the key in comedy. And when we kind of hit the screens, it was at a time when everybody was going through a global recession, and people were tired intellectualizing comedies. We had brilliant comedies out there, but at the same time they weren't in your face, let's have a laugh comedy. You had to think about it. They were subtle, They had hidden meanings and so on and so on. Very intellectual, whereas there was nothing intellectual about Mrs. Brown's Boys.
That classic scene with the Christmas tree that starts talking and moving and blinking. Beautiful.
It's beautiful, you know. And I mean, I watched it. I mean, I'm there when it's happening, and I was backstage when the one I loved was the one on the tree where it starts going round, where it starts turning around. And I know what's coming. I am crying with the laughter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his physical comedy is fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and it's just a joy to be part of something like that, Alex. You know, I never thought, you know, at my golden age that it would come to me, and I always feel when I'm talking to people, you know, they say, "Oh God, you're very inspirational," and I said, "Well, I think I'm kind of iconic from that point of view that you should never give up on your dreams. You know that I've always dreamt about, you know, being in a hit comedy, or being on television." I always wanted to perform, and I did it, you know, throughout my life, but never thought that the dream would actually come true. And here I am, and it has.
And you've done this all your life. I mean, this has been your career and your life, and just one break makes you a household name. But that's not to say that you haven't spent your life working.
Oh, of course not. You know, you know, and I think the same can be said for most performers.
Yeah.
You know, that they have spent. A lot of people think, "Oh my God, that's fantastic! They're absolutely brilliant. They're an overnight success," and that's because telly makes them an overnight success. The television makes them a household name, but what the television doesn't do is give you the backstory of the very long road to success.
Do you know the reason I think that Brendan had a hit with this? There's a lot of similarities, it seems to me, between Agnes and Dame Edna, because she's lovable and warm, but she's also filthy and mucky. I mean, the language is outrageous, but people forgive her, don't they?
They do, because she's an owl one. Yes. You know, she doesn't really know any better. You know, it's like, you know, you're sitting listening to your mother go, "Did she actually just say that?"
Yeah.
And your mother can say non-PC things, and you go, "Mom, you can't say things like that." Why not? You know, and I think it just gives people permission to lighten up a little bit and not take ourselves too seriously. Because at the end of it, like Dame Edna, Agnes has a lovely heart.
Yeah, she does. She means well.
She really does mean well, and she can backtrack. She can apologise without apologising.
Isn't it funny from your point of view when you think that there was the royal family, there was the office, extras? I can't think of many others that have become sort of household names that continue to be repeated over and over again. And as you say, the irony that you started doing relatively small theatres and now you're doing arenas with a live tour is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, that's the dream. That's the showbiz dream.
It is the showbiz dream. And you know, we're living the dream. You know, we're actually living the dream. But what we haven't, and I suppose when you've worked so hard for it, when there's been so many years put into it, you really appreciate it. You know that it could be gone tomorrow. Yeah. As quickly as it came.
That's right.
So, you know, you never lose touch with reality. Your feet are firmly on the ground. And I love the fact that, you know, that it has been a success, that it is, and I love what success brings into my life, and I love all of it. I won't deny that. I have an ego just like everybody else, but I'm also at that lovely age where you know that nothing lasts forever. So, you know, don't lose touch with reality and people who really matter to you.
Has there ever been another family that have been so celebrated in terms of success? I mean, this is absolutely a family affair. Of course, Brendan's your little brother, and then he's got his kids, his wife. Everybody's involved.
Yes, yeah. I don't think so. I'm not aware of it, other than circus families.
Right.
And I, for years, used to say to my friends, and they say, you know, what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I ran away with the circus 20 years ago. And that's how it felt. Yeah. I'd run away with the circus, and we were, you know, traipsing from city to city, town to town, sometimes filling theatres, sometimes not filling theatres, sometimes getting paid, sometimes not getting paid. And I think, you know, if anybody actually does ever really research it, I think for a play, a series of plays, to be going for the 20 years that it has been going, that in itself is quite an achievement. Like, you have the big ones like The Mousetrap, that's been going and still going, I think. Yeah. The big London productions, but I'm talking about, you know, a small production company which was a very small production company at the time, and getting as far as it has done, and still surviving, you know. Like, we might get 16 weeks work in a year.
Yeah.
But we'd all come back. We'd all give up the jobs, whatever jobs we were doing, we'd be back on the road again. And you know, other than family members, and there are quite a lot of other, you know, that are not family members, have been with Brendan over 20 years as well. So the longevity has been there for all of us.
Was there ever a point you thought, this is just too much like hard work, schlepping from theatre to theatre on the road, and you nearly gave up?
On every tour. You know, there's got to be an easier way to make a living. You know, this money is not going to last me 52 weeks of the year. On every trip, I'd say, you're mad to be doing it. But then you go on stage and I'm you know, involved in a production that makes people laugh. And, you know, that is such a drug. That is such an addiction that it kind of, you know, it doesn't fill your belly, but it does bring you a huge amount of comfort.
Yeah, there you go. And then we look at the Christmas special. What's going to happen this year? Is it going to be enormous? Are we going to be talking about it for months?
Oh, I think you will be. I mean, he keeps surprising us every year. I think you can't better it. You just can't better last year's, and he does every time. I remember it being great fun as usual. We recorded it in October, so you know, it's kind of, and I'm in the middle of doing panto now. And if somebody said to me, "Well, what actually happens?" I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm looking forward to seeing it myself on Christmas Day.
He is amazing. I mean, it's very brave to come back with another Christmas special. I said the same about Caroline Ahern, who put these wonderful royal families. To come back the following year with greater expectation and beat it is remarkable. What a talent.
It is, absolutely. And I hope he comes back again next year with another two.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Let's talk about Cinderella very finally, because there it is at Derby Live. Wonderful cast with Richard Blackwood. It's this fabulous, big, glamorous production, and there you are as fairy godmother. Do you pinch yourself sometimes when you look in the mirror with the wand in your hand and think, I've got to do it again?
Yeah, like I was standing side stage yesterday and watching Cinderella come down in her beautiful dress, and I was actually on stage because I'm there for the transformation, as you can imagine. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm in a fairy tale. Yeah. I'm actually living a fairy tale. And it's a wonderful feeling. And to watch the kids' faces, to watch every little girl in that audience wanting to be Cinderella. Yeah. And every little boy wanting to be Buttons or the Prince, or it is a wonderful childlike experience, and it does bring me back to my childhood. And I realise, very quickly that I'm still a kid. Inside, I'm still a kid. We all are.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? And that's what Panto does, isn't it?
Wonderful?
Yeah,
absolutely. Fabulous. It brings out the child in all of us.
Can I just, on a final question, you talked earlier about waiting for success to reach to the top. When did you feel you'd made it? How old were you when you felt that actually show business had arrived? Because, of course, being the star on the poster at a pantomime, obviously you've made it, but before that was Mrs. Brown's Boys. Did you always feel that you were a star, or do you still feel you were a working actress?
Well, no, I always felt I had that I was a star, but just nobody else knew.
I feel the same.
The rest of the world was busy catching up with me. You know what I mean? I always felt I was talented. I'm thinking, how come I'm not on a poster? But because I get so much out of performing, even in small productions, and I do my own show now called Live, Love, Laugh, which I tour Ireland with. Hopefully I'll get to take it to the UK when I get the time, which I love doing. Again, it's a completely different thing altogether, quite separate from Mrs. Brown's Boys. And I love performing. Maybe it's because I came from a family of 10 and myself and Brendan were the youngest. Yeah. And, you had to be very creative in how you got your mummy's attention. Yeah. And I think that was really good grounding for me, and I don't think it ever left. I think every time I'm on stage, I'm going, look at me now, Mammy.
Oh, I love that.
Look what I can do.
Do you know what I love as well is that you're not a faker. I see a lot of people sort of skydived into these productions doing 2 a day for weeks on end. You've got to be a pro to pull it off, because it is hard work and it takes an incredible discipline no matter how fun it is. Absolutely. And you've got to keep your energy up, and you've got to remember that every time you go out, it's the first time that these children or adults are seeing you, and they've got to get the show it's got to be brand new.
And, and I mean, of course, it's doctor theatre. Even if you're feeling a bit low, you can go out there and it just takes you off. You just go with it.
Congratulations on everything.
You get lost. Listen, Alex, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations. What a life, what a career, and what a continued success Mrs. Brown's Boys is. It's on for the Christmas special, of course, on BBC1. You can see Eilish O'Carroll starring as the fairy godmother in Cinderella at Derby Live through until January the 3rd. I wish you a very Merry Christmas, and thank you for the laughs. We love Winnie very much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you indeed.
As we do you.
Have a lovely Christmas yourself.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.